Let's come straight to your call. Sean's in Preston. Hi, Sean.
Hello, Tom.
How's it going for him?
I'm expecting blunder after blunder from this government.
Right.
Keir Starmer is not a politician or a world statesman. Rachel Reeves is not an economist, and David Lammy isn't a diplomat. So we're screwed, technically.
Why do you expect blunders after them? There have been plenty of governments Liz Truss was an entire blunder.
That was a blunder. I accept that. Yeah, big blunder. But this lot are no better. Look who you've got at the top. I've just explained to you. Starmer, Reeves and Lammy, they're just not the material this country needs.
Well, what hasn't he got that you want, Sean?
Starmer?
Yes.
He's got no political nous. He's a liar. He made 10 pledges to become Labour leader, and he ditched every single one of them. Look it up.
I know, I've seen it. So you fundamentally, Sean, you don't trust him?
No, and can we just go back to Biden for a sec? I don't want to hear from the left anymore that they are morally superior, because they're not.
When they say we believe in the rule of law, the president says I believe in the rule of law, just not when it comes to my own son.
Biden's a liar.
Yep.
Starmer's a liar. All politicians are liars.
Oh, now you sound like that bloke on Parliament Square for all those years. And it's very easy to say all politicians are liars. But I wonder, is that part of the problem that you have with the first nearly 150 days of the Labour government? Is they're in a bit of a trust deficit with you? Alan's in Royal Leamington Spa. Alan.
Tom.
Alan.
I just think, Tom, that it's all about the communications by this government, which have been very, very poor. I'm reminded of Maya Angelou when she said, people forget what you said, people forget what you did, but they never forget how they made you feel, or how you made them feel.
Yep.
And I think that's what's needed here. I think it needs a complete reset, if you like, of the communications, and to give people some hope, give people a sense of optimism. We're only a few months into this government. We got 4.5, 5 years to go. I think things will change. I've been a Labour supporter all my life. I don't think that will change. I think the winter fuel payment was a disaster. I think they should lift the 2-child benefit cap. But just give them time. But they've got to change the communications. They've got to make people feel that there's light at the end of the tunnel. But there is a good future for us. But people have got to be patient, and it'll come. But at the moment, they're just getting gloom and doom, and it's not good. That's what I think.
But the gloom and what's narrative and what's real? I think the gloom and doom is pretty real, isn't it? If you're coming in saying not only have we got massive budgetary black holes, but we've got no growth, and you perform a budget that sees inflation stay higher for longer, interest rates stay higher for longer, that sees businesses cutting jobs and paying people less because they're being hammered for tax, that has absolutely no growth whatsoever, pretty much anemic growth, lower than the last lot were able to deliver according to the OBR. What's to like?
Well, if that's the picture you want to paint, Tom, then there isn't a great deal to like.
But that is the picture, isn't it? I'm not...
Well, I don't think it is.
Okay, so what is it? What do you see?
I think it's like they've got to sort it out. They massive. They got 14 years of Tory government and the disasters that were sort of laid on the country by that government, and it takes time to sort it out.
I agree with you. I agree.
If you're going into a business which is not making any money, it's not growing, it's not succeeding. It takes time to turn it round. I ran a company for a number of years that was losing money when I went in there. It took me 3 or 4 years to get it back to
because
profitability.
You had a plan.
I had a plan, and I think the Labour government has a plan.
What is that plan? Because at the moment the plan is less growth than the Tories were going to deliver, according to the OBR.
The Tory press is never going to be friends of the Labour Party.
But this is the OBR, so this isn't the press. This is the Office for Budgetary Responsibility.
Yeah, but Tom, how long has the Labour government been in government?
I agree they haven't been able to deliver, but
5 months.
But this is the story. So this isn't the press. Hang on, this isn't the press. This isn't right-wing people. This isn't the Tories. This is the OBR saying less growth. Now, if you've got a plan to grow the economy, and you're delivering less growth than the last lot, what's happened to the plan?
I'm not qualified. That's above my pay grade, Tom. I'm not qualified.
Do you see what I mean? Like, if that's the story and that's the picture that's being painted, I can't see the positive lines in it.
But then they've got to put a counter narrative to that, haven't they? I think if people start seeing a change in the waiting list, see the waiting list in the NHS coming down, people start getting more money in their pockets.
How?
Well, the increase of the national minimum wage will help that to start with, won't it, really?
Well, you'd hope so, but only for people who are on the national minimum wage.
Yeah, but that will be a big step in itself. I think you'll see a change in the two-child benefit cap. I think that will be lifted in the spring of next year.
All right, Alan, I appreciate it. Thank you. Daniel's a first-time caller in Hadley in Suffolk. Daniel?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, sir. How's it going, do you think, for Labour in government?
Not too badly, I don't think. And my point that I have is what's wrong with the terminology of reset? That's what I ask. We do need a reset. There are too many things wrong. It hasn't been going well for 14 years. Why not reset? What's the problem with that?
Well, the country might need a reset. That's fair.
Yeah.
But the talk here is that this is the Labour government resetting slightly its priorities to make that change.
Well, needs must, I believe.
But why do they need to?
Why do they need to reset on?
Yeah. If it's been going so well, why the need to come out and tell a different story or try and say something different?
Because things change. 150 days is actually a long time. I believe I was sitting there thinking earlier, actually, that's gone really quickly. Things change, narrative changes,
so what has
public
changed,
opinion changes.
Yeah, what's changed then in those last 150 days?
Well, everything's up in the air, isn't it? Taxes, people are getting worried. There's cost of living crisis still, which people had expected to go away. I think it's more about public expectation, and they have to play to that narrative.
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad point. But then if you, I do wonder whether...
It's a hard argument, isn't it?
Did you vote for them?
No.
Do you think that they're going to turn the country around, make it better, get public services working? You can see your doctor.
I hope so, but I can't see much changing, which is why I'm on the side of the fence I am.
What side of the fence
you've got to do. Well, I'm on the side of the fence that they need to reset their values, need to reset what they're doing, need to change what they're doing, possibly, to get it done.
And give me one big thing that they need to change that you'd like to see.
Controversial. Migration, illegal migration.
And what is that, Daniel, that you'd like to see changed?
It needs to stop, and there are ways to do it. Bad ways to do it, good ways to do it. I'm not going to tell you the good ways or the bad ways, but I don't know.
Okay.
It needs to stop. We cannot carry on how we are. There are not enough houses, not enough doctors, there's not enough public resources, there's not enough money.
Well, the bigger number, of course, is not illegal migration, it's legal migration. That's been the massive number. That's nearly a million in the year to June 2023.
Yeah, but what number of that would be for jobs that needed filling that people won't do in this country?
Well, the stats that the Shadow Home Secretary painted, was it 15% of all non-EU visas in the last 5 years, only 15% of them were issued to people who were in work, which is, I think, astonishing. Matt's in Dorchester on this Labour reset first. Hi, Matt.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. I think that nothing that Keir Starmer's done is particularly wrong, but I think he's compromising way too much on what is actually necessary, and he's actually making him more unpopular than it would if he actually did the right thing. If you want me to give you an example, with the farmer's inheritance tax, I think it's perfectly reasonable to expect anyone who has a £3 million plus farm to pay inheritance tax. But what's unfair on those people is that the people with £20 million farms, and, for example, the Duke of Westminster, with massive real estate portfolios, they put them in a trust and don't have to pay any inheritance tax. Mm-hmm. And that needs to be addressed. I think stuff like with the housing crisis, building more houses isn't going to solve the problem. The problem is unscrupulous landlords that are buying up all the new builds and charging people extortionate amounts to pay rent to live in those buildings, which means those people can then never afford to buy houses. And then until we address the real issues, we're never going to get anywhere, and then we're going to end up with it not working and in a reform government in 5 years' time.
Interesting diagnosis. The other, or one other area that we haven't actually talked about in this hour of reset, which I understand that Keir Starmer will be addressing, is crime. And I think a lot of people in this country now just do not believe what they are being told by central government when it comes to statistics around crime, because there are lots of types of crime, shoplifting, theft, burglary, that seem to just go unpunished now in this country.
Well, that's a completely different issue. My issues are more economic.
But it's an issue for government, and it's an economic issue too if you're having stuff stolen from the supermarket every 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, but I think that the bigger economic issues are really to do with house prices continuously rising, and I think that people not being able to afford them because they're paying extortionate rents.
But do you see
millionaires?
Do you think I'm right, Matt, talking about crime as an area that people are genuinely very concerned about, that they don't see much happening on and that needs to be looked at very carefully?
Personally, I think crime and immigration you can put in one group, which is distraction techniques.
You think talking about crime is a distraction?
Yeah, I think that you've got a selection of newspapers, all of whom CEOs have non-dom status and have massive tax loopholes, which means they don't pay much tax. That's factual. Even left-wing papers like The Guardian have CEOs that have non-dom status. And these newspapers and other broadcast associations, probably not LBC, but other ones, will go, look at the shiny, look at all the people coming in on boats. Don't look about the millionaires like the aristocrats that own half of the country. Don't look at the royal family that have massive real estate portfolios and don't pay any tax. Look at this poor person that's coming in on a boat. He's the real issue. And I think they do it as a distraction technique. I think the numbers of people that come in on boats is nothing. It's tiny.
Well, it's not
yes,
nothing.
You don't want to see it.
It's tiny compared to the number of people who are looking to move across the world. It's tiny compared to the number of refugees in places like Turkey. But it's not
and
nothing.
The amount of money we spend on the people that come over on boats is tiny compared to the amount of money.
Never been higher.
And 35 billion is owned by King Charles, who doesn't pay inheritance tax. I've proposed it for the next 5 years by getting him to pay some inheritance tax.
Well, listen, I think if you want the Labour government to start going after the Crown estates and the duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster, I think, unfortunately, Matt, I think you're going to be very disappointed because it doesn't look like they're going to touch them.